Hey, what's going on, guys? Xbox Online channel, host Sega Forever. A very rare live broadcast on a Sunday evening. It's getting a little bit late, but I've been noticing something today, especially for a Sunday, that it's been pretty radio silent on these gaming streets when it comes to the Sony Ponies. Now, what I mean by that is when I'm checking Twitter or Facebook or just on YouTube in general, I noticed that they're just a little bit more quiet than they usually are, especially given the last 2 weeks, everything that's happening with Microsoft AKB deal, as well as Redfall. Now, I've talked about those situations on this channel. I'm not going to go into detail. But as you guys know, tomorrow it's projected that the EU is going to give their decision on the Microsoft acquiring AKB, which is Activision. Uh, was it Activision Blizzard deal going through and King, sorry. But that's supposed to the ruling's supposed to come out tomorrow. Now, whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. That's what everybody's saying on the media. Also, a lot of people are saying that the deal looks to be going through for various reasons. I'm a little bit more positive than most people are, but after what happened with the CMA, I can understand where some people on the Xbox side are a little bit hesitant to believe that the deal is going to go through. I've told you guys on this channel my perspective on the whole AKB deal with Microsoft, and it goes beyond this Microsoft acquiring the publisher and bringing the titles into Game Pass and stuff like that. That's a big positive, especially on the gaming front. But for me, as I told you guys before in other videos, it's just the blatant hypocrisy that goes on in these gaming streets and how this merger. Though some people might say that it's been a black eye from Microsoft, I totally disagree. Um, if anything, it's probably showed the power that Microsoft wields. For a lot of people, when we just look at it as far as gaming, is Xbox. But given that Microsoft is the parent company, I mean, all of this stuff goes on that's going on right now should give a lot of people on the Xbox side some confidence, a little bit of a swagger when it comes to the Xbox entertainment system because of the fact that Microsoft does own them. Now, with that comes a big target. That's painted on Xbox because of Microsoft. Well, technically, it's painted on Microsoft because they're a big tech company. They're one of the biggest tech companies, and they make a lot of money. They're worth trillions of dollars. So with that territory, right, comes a lot of the hate and a lot of the mistrust, and that's not just in the gaming side. That's like in just in business in general, right? This is why when big deals happen with Microsoft, even though it's happening with Xbox, like when they bought Bethesda or when they announced the purchase of AKB, the media went crazy. But a lot of the places that ran with it and were some of the like the president and Satya Nadella and of course Phil Spencer. Um, they did the interviews with the major news networks, especially on the financial side and stuff like that. So um, yeah, I just kind of find it kind of funny because look, the as Xbox guys, we know a lot of times we listen to the ponies chirp a lot, especially when things don't go Microsoft's way, or when something negative happens to Microsoft, and these guys are the ones that blow it all out of proportion. Then the media gets involved, right, and just becomes this big, uh, you know, all this drama starts going off online, right? And so this is one of the things that I find funny because if you look at the ponies who talk the most, right, they tend to be a little bit quiet when things look a little bit scary for them, right? So, like I said, with the AKB deal, I'm not saying that look, take everything with a grain of salt, most definitely. Like I said, personally, I don't care because the reason why I follow this stuff is I find it interesting. I've told you guys on the videos as far as my channel is concerned and the stuff that I like to look at. I like to get into the minutia of all these kind of things, right? Like, and it's not just the business aspect of it; it's just the cause and effect, right? For example, like when the AKB deal was announced, a lot of the Sony guys were saying that they didn't care, and then as time was moving on, then they started to care, right? A lot of it just because of hate for Xbox, but also some of the stuff that Sony was doing, and more importantly, what Sony was saying. Now, the ponies will do a lot of stuff like they'll just deny or deflect or just won't pay attention to all the stuff that's going on their side because they're so focused on what's going on Microsoft side. Sorry, guys. Um, because that's what they like to do. But they never look at what's going on their side. But for somebody like me who's trying to look at the overall picture, because it does affect me as a gamer, right? If I'm being honest. But it's just again, it's just something that's interesting to me because I like the machinations, like seeing the cause and effect, like I said. And when you saw the AKB going through, the first thing I thought to myself was, "Wow, why is Sony?" But Sony's like they're fighting so hard, right, to block the deal. for various reasons. But one of the things that they did mention, and they kind of had to come clean on it because a lot of stuff was being put on blast as well, with all the documentation being exposed. That we live in a digital age, right? Or you like to think some of the stuff, like people do by some kind of code, or some kind of ethics in business, where some of the stuff's not going to get exposed. But in 2023, or for the last several years, it's been that way. Nothing's sacred, which is kind of interesting, good for us, right? Because we get to kind of see all this stuff, all that goes off in the background. Um, and then a lot of stuff was exposed, man. And then Sony basically was saying, Jim Ryan was like, look, dude, we're not going to make it if we don't have Call of Duty, right? And when stuff like that happens, this is the stuff that I like about the deal, right? All this other stuff aside, all the console war stuff, all of this stuff used for ammunition on both sides for whatever leverage you can get in the console war, fine. I can do that too. It's no biggie. Don't take it really that seriously, right? Because again, guys, there's a reason why I game on Xbox, dude. I don't need other people's reassurances or stuff like that, or things to happen in the media or within the gaming community to justify why I'm an Xbox player and an Xbox owner, right? I just think because I love their games, I love their ecosystem, I love their services. If I didn't like their stuff, I wouldn't be here. But when all this stuff happens, this is again when all the truth comes to light is what I like about it. And what Sony said about Call of Duty, dude, it makes a lot of sense because we all know this, and then the Sony guys will deny to high heaven and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that it's necessarily bad that their first party AAA titles sell millions of copies and stuff like that. But when you look again at the numbers that PlayStation boasts for their user base, right? The numbers don't add up, dude. Again, if you have the hundreds of millions of people that supposedly form the base of their consoles, right, and you only sell less than 1% of your major titles to that supposed base, and I've said this before on this channel, something doesn't jive. Either they're fudging the numbers when it comes to how many consoles they actually have that people own, or what to me this is the worst thing is that they actually have those consoles out in people's hands, but then nobody's buying their games on that one-to-one level. And I'm talking not even 10 million. I see a lot of the Sony guys are bragging now. It's like what they're doing is they're starting to do like giving the numbers for units sold on their big name titles, right? But it's over a culmination of the title's lifetime. Right, which you can do. I mean, that's something that you can't do. But of course, it becomes a defense mechanism, which is why I'm doing this video and I'm pointing it out because Sony relies on that a lot. Right? A lot of these guys, like I said, was talking trash for the last couple of weeks, but then all of a sudden, as the announcement from the EU is coming around the corner, I haven't really heard anything from these guys. They've been talking a lot of trash last week, but as the weekend has been filing in, and they're still the usual suspects talking trash and stuff like that, but it's gotten really, really quiet in the gaming streets, right? And that's because of the decision tomorrow. Because like I said, it looks positive for Xbox. Now, again, just saying this is all what people are seeing in both the industry on the financial side, as well as the people who really follow this kind of stuff, all the analysts. But these analysts were wrong with the CMA. Right? So, like again, take it with a grain of salt. But still interesting to me, right, that these guys aren't yapping as much. Because if this deal goes through tomorrow, which everybody is saying that there's a great possibility that it'll go through. If it goes through tomorrow, man, you're gonna hear from the Ponies, but they're not gonna be as loud, right? They're not gonna be celebrating as much. You'll just get the Ponies that come out here and try and defend Sony and deflect what this actually means, and you'll see all kind of excuses, right? Now, if the deal gets blocked by the EU, then you see these guys come on and like mass talking about it, just talking trash. For me, like I told you guys, man, regardless of what happens, I still think Microsoft is going to attain AKB by whatever means necessary. And I wholeheartedly support them in that. Not just as a fan of Activision, Blizzard's like the Call of Duty franchises. I also play Overwatch because of my daughter. But I just think it's good in general for gaming, right? You have companies now with the economy the way it is, and we're seeing that even on the Sony side, even though these guys don't want to admit it, you see a lot of these studios and publishers cutting back and studios closing down, right? And that's just the reality of the economy that we live in, right? So Activision Blizzard, if you listen to Bobby Kotick talk about this and why he's really doing it, and I know a lot of people don't like him, but he's a businessman at heart, so he basically was explaining why they're doing this. It's just some of the future tech that Microsoft has right? And it's that security for the employees and their studios, man. Not a lot of companies can do what Microsoft does. There's a couple of them out there, man. But I'll say this much: as a gamer, Microsoft is actually at this current time putting the games first and putting the developers first, and doing that, right? Doing what's best for the actual gaming community, to include the publishers and the developers. And you'll see stories that come out where Game Pass, right? A lot of people praising Game Pass. There's some people that didn't have as much success with it, and that's something that Microsoft has to look at. I'm not saying it's bad, um, but Game Pass, as you guys know, if you're like me and you use your Game Pass, like you actually have an Xbox and you subscribe to Game Pass and you play your Game Pass games, you understand that one of the problems they have is it's getting a little bit flooded. And with Microsoft trying to increase those subscriptions services, and they're putting so much content in there, that's something maybe they might want to look at, to kind of maybe spread it out. This is why I don't. This is why I don't stress over the AAA titles not releasing, and like when they miss their dates. It's because I got so many other things to play, and I don't have the time. And I don't think even if I could play every day, I would have the time to play every single game that I want to play. Right. So that's why I don't believe the AAA first party AAA narrative. Because if that was true, like I said before, if that was true, then Sony would be investing in like 10 different 10 besides God of War and I don't really know the name of the games. God of War and Way Out West or whatever that West whatever the one with the girl and the dinosaurs. If those things were truly successful, you would have had sequels to some of their other games that don't have sequels, and then they have like 7 games in the pipe. Because and by successful, I mean if like you have 150 million consoles out there, PS4s out there, and then you like at least half of them, or like I'll even be nice. Let's say they sold 30 million copies, right? If they were making that kind of bank, right? Because you would think, right, if you have 150 million people and only like what 3 million people are buying it, and I'm talking to be successful. I'm equating this to box office numbers day one, right? You got to make that money back, and you got to sell these games at full price, not when it goes half price, not when it drops off the radar, not when it gets bundled, as he likes to point out, which is absolutely correct, right? This is like day and date first, when it releases or when it's full price within those first couple months before it gets a price cut. Right? Is everybody buying those games? No, right? And this is why you have some of the things happening with them. Right? This is and it looks like they're going to double down on those AAA titles because they're closing these other studios, and then now they're trying to make live service games, and they're going to probably try and get their version of Game Pass up and running in a better situation. Now they've said that they can't. I'm talking about Sony. They said that they can't do day and date, which is a big deal. Right? This is why you see the Ponies fighting so much. Like it doesn't matter. This is why I was upset with the Xbox side, because they get people say, well, 60 frames per second would have been great. And then having the stuff, yes, we know Redfall had issues. I don't really care about the 60 frames per second. There's people out there that do, I don't. But the game had some issues and stuff like that. But for people, the most people that are complaining, a lot of them are ponies, and it doesn't matter if the game is perfect, they're still going to complain. Right? Because they hate Xbox. This is what you guys got to understand. They hate Xbox, and they want to see Xbox die. And they want to see Microsoft go away. Or at least Microsoft support of Xbox go away. So that they can have that gaming sector all to themselves, man. These people, like these ponies, man, they're the worst. They're the worst fan base I've ever dealt with across any genre, whether it's comic books, man. I've gone to war with DC guys, being a Marvel guy. Dude, when I was younger, I used to argue with my friend over Transformers, who's better, Decepticons or Autobots. Um, you know, there's just genres of fan bases that are out there that are absolutely hardcore and psychopathic, right? But I've never come across people as bad as the Sony guys are. I mean, because they'll defend Sony to the death regardless. Like you see these guys celebrating $70 games, and the reason they celebrate that $70 games because they know that Sony set that standard that everybody had to follow, right? And the media was nowhere to be found. They didn't give them crap about that, right? They're the ones that push the industry to that kind of stuff. In fact, a lot of the stuff they do are anti gamer, anti consumer. And these sycophants, man, they love their brand so much. And I say brand because they don't really play their games, right? And they don't really use their units. This is why they're on Twitter and social media all the time, arguing with or always watching what other people do. It's like a person at work when you're busting your ass at work and you're working hard, and then that one dude just floats around and tells on everybody, or gets in everybody's business instead of doing his own work. That's what they are. That's how irritating they are, and it's And I'm tired of them doing. That's another reason why I want the AKB deal to go through, just to shut them up, and then to give Microsoft more stronger footing, right? Because that is again going to be a game changer for Microsoft, especially on the subscription side. Phil said it himself. It's not their big, there's not their big plan, but it accelerated. And when he uses that word accelerate, trust me, he means that the paradigm shift that E-Rock talks about when um, these gamers are going to transfer over, which is what happened with the 360. That's why these ponies, they think they have the numbers, and they brag and stuff like that because, well, for some reason they're like, well, we have more people on this side, more fans. You don't have fans, dude. You just have consumers. And when something's better somewhere else and they migrate, that's when you get hurt. And this is why they're fighting so hard for it because Jim Ryan know that stuff. They know it. So anyway, just a real quick video for you guys. Well, quick, it's like 15 minutes, but just wanted to. There's something that was swirling around my head. I'm about to wrap up all my stuff, and I said, you know what? I'll just do a quick StreamYard video and throw this out there for you guys. This isn't like a podcast or anything, just a quick video. Because I just thought it was interesting, man. It's just you can. It's easy to read Sony, guys. I mean, that's why I don't get so mad. And I'm online trolling them, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, because it's funny to me, man. These guys are very sensitive about their stuff, and they love their brand way too much. That's why it's so easy to piss them off. But I was just amazed. I was like, there's the usual suspects out there talking stuff, but man, it was pretty silent because this decision is looming tomorrow, and dude, the EU passes this thing, and then with everything and the other news that came out with the Prime Minister talking about UK and their regulators' business practices, and that looked like it's going to be coming under a microscope. And I hope when the FTC things kick off, right? FTC aside, when our politicians get involved and start looking at the anti-business practices of Sony, I wouldn't be surprised if they get pulled into court. That would be cool too, because these guys are scum, both the company and their fans. And I'm looking forward for the day when they're no longer viable in this gaming industry. I know some people are like, how can you say that they're an institution now? Atari is no longer around. Now all they do is publish. Sega, they said the same thing to my beloved Sega. That, just become a third-party publisher. It'll be great, right? Knowing damn well that these dudes were not going to support anything Sega. And Sega did a lot for PlayStation. I bought Virtual Fighter all on the PlayStation. I had a PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, and I would always buy the Virtual Fighters because of the way the controller was. It was way better. You can map the top buttons to do the kick, punch, defense moves, especially since I like using Jeffrey and Wolf. The wrestlers, they both have they both have grappling moves and wrestling moves. So it's just better to use the PlayStation controller. Probably the only thing that was good about the PlayStation controller, in my opinion. I hated that controller just because of the way the thumbsticks were. But if you play their games, it would be perfectly fine because kind of like Nintendo, man. They build their games specifically for their controller and their console. This is why Microsoft stands apart with the Xbox, right? Every genre across every performance aspect. I mean, it's just amazing to me. And when people start waking up to that, then it'll be better, especially for us. And then the less we can deal with ponies, the happier our lives would be, in my opinion. Anyway, just wanted to throw this video out here, just some thoughts get off my chest. Xbox Island channel, host Sega forever. We out.